All right, y'all. We are back live for a special live AMA with my boy Chris Donaldson, the CEO of Donaldson Educational Services. So, y'all, tonight's episode, we're going to be talking all things real estate, and this is a live show. So, drop your questions in the chat, and we'll answer live. But, Chris, what's happening, man?
Oh man, happy Friday happy hour, right? Everything's good, man. Everything's good. Just looking forward to talking shop. It's fun. A little laid back. Got the hat on. Friday night vibes. Got a
Um,
little refreshment. We're good to go. Let's rock and roll, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course, of course. So, we got a lot to discuss, but man, I want to start by telling you a couple things. I actually went to Donaldson School
Oh,
for,
really?
yeah, for real estate. Now, I quickly learned this was, man, almost maybe 10 years ago. I quickly learned that, the job of a real estate agent is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And just from going through real estate deals, I realized I wanted to be on the other side, you know what I'm saying? The actual purchasing side. So, man, y'all did have some really cool teachers. It was just, even talking to my friends about this episode, they're like, man, we thought that, Donaldson Realty, we thought that was like a national company or something. I'm like, no, it's just local guys, you know what I'm saying? So really cool to have you on, man.
I appreciate that. Always good to talk to a Donaldson graduate. I'm a Donaldson graduate from back in the day, you know. And it's funny, if you look around Twitter and social media, everybody thinks a real estate agent's job is easy.
Man, dude,
Find
it's
out that's
I have so much respect for that whole industry, that whole field. I do kind of wish in another life, I would have dived deep into that real estate game. But I'm thinking right now, from the realtors I'm talking to, it's kind of tough right now. But what do you think about right now? You think like the agents that make it through right now will be the ones rewarded when the market turns around?
absolutely 100%. I mean, some of the, I guess I would say the young guns that are super successful, kind of in our generation, I think we're probably, within reason around the same age. Um, they got in 2007, 2008, 2009,
Mhm.
2010, in that range when things were, kind of wild out there. But anytime a market is like getting in disruption and people are running for the exits, that is your chance to run in and grab your market size. And you're always calling the weak part of the herd. But I think now is even better because look at what we're doing right here. Look at what anybody can do. You can hop on
Mhm.
social media, get attention, right? Generate leads, and you can just leapfrog over other agents in your local market, wherever you are, almost right out the gate. Not saying that it's easy, but I hope we get to talk about all of the bad information that's out there about what's going on in real estate right now because it's out there.
Yeah, it's an attention economy. And, I guess, if I was an agent, I would be doing what you were saying, leveraging social media and using this time to really build my brand, network as much as I can. So that, when the rates do eventually drop again, we go into, it's real estate, it's historical, and it's going to be an asset class that the country is designed. So being a real estate whether you're a real estate agent, a home builder, anything in the real estate sector, it's a just like investing, it's a long-term game, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm actually curious is, you said you're talking to uh, real estate agents and just folks out there. Like, I'm curious, like, what do you think is going on in real estate? What is your perception just right
Mm-hmm.
now in general? Like, what does it feel like? What does it look like? What are you hearing and seeing? Because I kind
So
of want to react to, yeah, what it looks like to you.
yeah. So I think it's first of all, it's cyclical. Real estate, it's a long-term game. And, as money comes into our economy, as, we see more money printed, money is going to flow into assets because obviously, there's tax advantages and there's laws. So obviously we're dealing with historic inflation from the money supply being inflated. So what is happening is that in order to combat the inflation, the Fed has decided to raise interest rates to essentially slow the economy. Now that's having a devastating effect because right now it's kind of like a push and pull of like, Well, prices are dropping, but interest rates are so high. So, like, let's say hypothetically, you're a home buyer with a 2 to 4% interest rate. You don't want to sell your house, even if you can profit, because then you will have to then go and buy a new house with an 8% interest rate. Then,
Right.
we could get into the insurance and that thing. So, I think that
Yeah.
right now we're at a weird point where it's kind of like the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. And
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is gonna break first? Something is going to happen. And that's kind of my overview of it. What do you think though?
No, it sounds like you got your mind around it better than a lot of folks. I mean, there's so much sensationalism. I really enjoy. That's why I'm on Twitter a lot. I really just enjoy diving in these conversations where on one side you've got people that are like dancing on the grave of the real estate industry already. Oh my God, this great financial crisis, it's over. Real estate will never be the same. But then you've also got people on the other side that are telling you everything is fine, everything is
Mhm.
normal, prices are still going up. I don't understand what people are talking about. And as with most things, it's right in the middle. The truth
Mhm.
is way in the middle. And so I've been enjoying sort of seeing the different perspectives and what people think, but you've got a good handle on it, And so when things are frozen, you've got to get the immovable object. Who do you think is going to blink first? Do you think
Mhm.
it's going to be the buyer or the seller? And I think that's what a lot of people might be a little bit confused about is the idea of if a seller's got to reduce price, if prices across the board have to come down, everybody wants to put the word crash on their next video, their next
Mhm.
blog post, their next everything, right? It's a crash. And it's like, look at any chart for any asset that's ever existed. It doesn't go just like this,
Mhm.
and it probably doesn't go just like that unless it's some meme scam coin, on a crypto exchange,
Mhm.
offshore, right? All asset classes have their fluctuations. So if we get a little bit of I guess, a normalization after uh, the distortion of COVID, I would say that that's super healthy. I would
Mhm.
say that that's super necessary. And I think there's a lot of encouraging signs out there. I mean, look, at the end of the day, one of two things has to happen, right? Prices have to come down or interest rates have to come down. If neither of those two things happen, we're going to stay right where we are, which is basically nobody doing anything unless they absolutely have to. I mean, that's
Yeah. Yeah, so I believe, mortgage applications are, an all-time low. And, like you said, and then, the sensationalism of the real estate crash, those headlines obviously go a long way. People fear porn. But
Mhm.
what I would always look at, and whether you're in a bull market, a bear market, no matter what it is location, location, location. And I know that's said over and over, but guys, there's nothing like if this country is going to exist, think about it. You had a real estate market during World War I. You had a stock market during World War II. You had a real estate market during World War II. So, not saying, not trying to scare y'all if we go into any type of World War III, but the crazier the world gets, it seems that the asset classes that survive the craziness, one will always be real estate. And that's coming from me, of more of a stock and crypto guy. But, I think you would be crazy right now to not be diversified into real estate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of the asset class, but I'm also a realist, right? And
Mhm.
so, when you're just looking around at the landscape, I think everybody just needs to take a deep breath and realize that we've had a whole lot of distortion in a whole lot of ways, but this is going to bring a whole lot of opportunity for those that are smart, those that are patient, and those that understand what's really going on. And
Mhm.
I don't want to sit here and say that I am, but what I will say is that I've been through the 2008 crisis, right? Like as a millennial, that was my big one. And it kind of caught me by surprise, like everybody else. So the one thing that I have done ever since then is I promised myself that that would never happen again. And so I have studied market cycles. You'll see it all behind me. I have been immersed in it, probably to an unhealthy degree for a long time. But but only because I really wanted to understand it. And so when all of this distortion started happening, well, it changed a little bit. None of this is surprising to me at all. I'm chill. I'm calm. I expected it, because I think that this is our generation's chance to go grab some generational wealth and to be able to do some things, because you're going to have an asset class that's going to move around. I mean, look, I know you're a big crypto guy, and I'm going to have a couple questions for you. But
Mhm.
bag holders, right, is a big phrase. Stuff like that. Every asset class has its bag holders at the end of a
Mhm.
cycle, whether it's real estate or it's crypto or it's stocks or it's anything. So I think people need to realize there's always somebody that bought right at the end, right at the highest possible price, and probably won't be able to sell for that. It,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean the world is over, not only for them, but also for the asset class, right? Um, but also, we after the great financial crisis, we had zero interest rates for like 10 years. And then all of a sudden, like that, right, we raised them to the Fed funds rate over 5%. But 500 basis points in basically what, 15 months or so. And that's going to, it's supposed to slow down demand. That's all that the Federal Reserve can do, but they can't do anything about the supply side, and we should probably be focused a little bit about that as well, because the Great Financial Crisis was so frightening to the entire industry that basically we stopped building, we stopped developing, and we're actually sort of undersupplied
Mhm.
in a lot of ways. But you know, I love what you just said. Just to finish off this thought, I love the fact that everything's going to be the end of the world, right? Well, I love United States real estate for one basic fact. This market class by itself almost took down the world's economy in 2008. Just
Mhm.
this asset class and everything we did with it. Well, it's too big to fail. The United States government is too far in. They cannot let the United States housing market fail, so it won't. And so if I'm picking a place to be in some way, shape, or form, I want to be a part of that, because if it goes down, the US is going down. The
Mhm.
end. Like,
Ye
it's simple.
Yeah, and I've kind of, and look, anybody tuning in, man, thank y'all for tuning in. Drop your questions, anything real estate, any topics, drop it in the chat, and Chris and I will answer. So, yeah, so going back to '08, what you'll notice if you looked at the median household price from '08, and you look at it actually from right now. So even if you bought at the top of the market, say you are a sucker, you bought the top of the market at '08, and you held to right now, you're actually in the green. Now, some could say, hey, that's the dangers of inflation. But I would argue, like you're saying, that is actually the power of real estate investing. And the problem with, most of my friends that invest in real estate is that they look at this asset class the way they will look at stocks or crypto or gold or silver. And they're not understanding that, like, you're sitting there looking at your stock portfolio and refreshing it every day. You're not going to go to your house and constantly get it reappraised. This isn't how this asset class works. And like you said, as long as this country exists, which, I don't know about you, Chris, I'm betting on America. I'm always going to bet on America, that this is going to be the number one. Exactly. This is going to be the number one. This is going to be the number one asset class for most Americans to create generational wealth, because of the 30-year mortgage, just because of the entire tax system is designed to benefit real estate investors.
Yeah, that's definitely true, right? You want to be in the assets that the wealthy people are in, right? But I think it's just really it's simpler. In today's day and age of like the smartphone, everybody can get on apps like Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever, and they can look at the price or the zestimate or the estimate of what their house is worth today, right? The
Mhm.
gamification of pricing in every asset class is like off the charts. So people always want to know what their stuff is worth. They want to know what their stuff is worth. Um, but and that's totally fair, and I think that's great. And look, the United States, the way our system is designed, is you've got to own assets in order to get ahead. That's the
Mhm.
way the system is designed. So, look, I think me and you have a lot in common in that. We don't necessarily like the system the way that it is, right? When you look at the Federal Reserve System and the way that money is created and the
It's an
way that
imperfect system.
it's very imperfect. And I'll look. I've got Bitcoin. I love that as an asset class. Obviously, you know, uh, but what I think is important is we're not going to change this system right now, and so we either sit around and we complain and we whine and we're upset because stuff is the way it is, or a better idea, we understand that there's a structural system in place that is designed in a certain way. And if we learn the rules, we can get ahead. And
Mhm.
so I'm a bigger fan of learning what the rules are, even if I don't like them, and playing by them. So one of those rules is you got to have assets, right? So I
Mhm.
don't care if it's real estate, if it's stocks, if it's crypto. The United States dollar is going to continue to inflate. In other words, right, it's going to lose its purchasing power, which means we're going to inflate assets. I was just having a conversation with a friend today. I'm like, look, on a long enough timeline, I'll give you the best stock prediction ever. The SPX is going to go to 5,000, and then it's going to go to 6,000, and then it's going to go to 7,000, because the numbers are just going to keep going up astronomically. That's by design. So when it comes to real estate, look, in the near term, I would love to share with you what I think my professional opinion is on what's actually going to happen in the next 6 months. But then long term, if we look back 5 years from now, it's almost certain that as an asset class, it's going to be going up, because assets are designed to inflate in this system. It's just the way that it is, right? So get assets, get them.
Yeah, I guess the way some economists would put it is that it's not necessarily the asset's value going up; it's the value of the money is going down, which is
Yeah.
then making real estate is scarce. Scarcity creates value. Now, again, like Chris is saying, y'all, different asset classes. I'm not here trying to tell you to buy real estate. I'm not a real
Me
estate
either.
agent. Yeah, I'm not.
I
I'm
told a
not telling.
client, I told a client not to buy something not that long ago. A friend asked me about something. I'm like, dude, I just don't think it's a good idea.
One of my friends, he told me, we were talking about, he really wants an Escalade and he's trying to come up with these mental gymnastics of like how he can justify buying it. Well, I'll buy the Escalade and I'll drive it on Uber until it's paid off, or I'll rent it to an Uber driver. And that way, eventually I'll have a free Escalade. It'll pay the
Oh
note.
no.
And I'm like, man, not saying don't do that, but before I did that, I would buy a house. And he's like, you think I should buy a house right now? Oh, absolutely not. I'm just saying, before you bought an Escalade, buy a house, because, some people will say houses are liabilities. I do not think so. I think houses are assets, but, there are good houses and bad houses. Now, Chris, an issue that I think is coming up right now a lot in Louisiana would be
Yeah.
the insurance rates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm actually a licensed insurance adjuster, so I got a little different perspective on this. And
Are you a
hey,
storm
Amanda.
chaser? Do you do the traveling?
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Hey, Amanda. Thanks for tuning in.
What's up, Amanda?
So I guess what a lot of people worried about is like, okay, you take on this 30-year mortgage, you picked a good house in a good area, you love the neighborhood, you love the school, all this, but now you get blindsided by these rise in insurance rates, and there's really no cap on how high these insurance rates can actually go. And if you're following anything that our local government or state government saying, that they don't really seem to have a solution that's not just hope and pray for there are no storms, right? So
Yeah.
any insight on that?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you an answer that does not involve climate change, if that's okay with you. Yeah, I think it's one of the many stresses that are leading towards that are just putting pressure on housing valuation. Because when a buyer comes in, right, at the end of the day, no matter how successful you are, whatever your salary is, you're getting run through a computer, right? You're getting run through qualification, debt to income, payment, and all of that stuff. And when homeowners insurance is going up astronomically, including wind and hail, when flood insurance is going up, property taxes are going up because everybody's houses have increased in value. All that means is that end of the day, that monthly payment just keeps going up for American home buyers. And I think this is the difficult conversation that we're having with sellers, is that it's not that, like, if Kevin came, that he doesn't want to buy your house, and he'd probably pay this number. But no matter how many times they run him through the mortgage simulator, it doesn't work. And banks are being very conservative right now, very conservative. I watch the CNI, the lending numbers that come out every week, and they have been declining, and it's continuing to decline. And people get mad. They're like, banks are sitting on all this money, but the world has changed a lot since the great financial crisis. They're under a lot of regulation that they weren't then, but even more so, they're really just looking to lend to most prime folks. So there's less of that available, and it's just we're at this standoff period. So sellers are if they want to sell right now, they're going to have to lower prices because buyers are going to just stand there and they're going to say, this is the absolute max that the mortgage guy will let me pay. Like it can't go any higher. So people say, well, buyers just need to come up. They can't in a lot of cases. And so I think that's normal. When it's real estate, I guess it just touches everybody because everybody lives somewhere, right? Whether you're in an apartment right now, or you're in a house, you're an investor, or you want to buy, you're a seller. Like everybody's got an opinion and a feeling because real estate touches everybody. So I totally get it. But yeah, insurance is a problem. I mean, there's entire insurance companies that are leaving. And look, we're not alone in Louisiana, right? Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Texas. They've all got a lot of the same stuff going on. And this is my argument with people that say inflation is over. Inflation is embedded at a higher level. And history tells us we just need to get used to it, right? Like the other day when the market pumped because the CPI was 0.1% less than forecast, and it's like buy everything, like the shittiest stock on the stock market was going up. Like, that's fine. Like the market dynamics are fun, but CPI is still that inflation is at 3%. That's compound interest. Like everybody understands compound interest when it comes to their investments, but it seems like we forget when it comes to inflation. So insurance is a great example of that dynamic. You think insurance premiums are going to come down substantially in the future?
No, probably not.
Like
I
ever
mean,
again?
well,
Like that's not how it's going to work.
So look, I'm gonna answer that, Chris, but we got some questions coming in. Lewis X, what's the best way to buy land without a lot of cash? And I know Lewis, so he buys like 10 plus acres, and I think he was in a situation where he had like 10 or so acres come up next door to him, but didn't have the money to jump on it. And I think what actually ended up happening was some other guy jumped on the deal and then resold it to someone else, got in first, got the contract, and, made 10 to 20 grand. So do you have any strategies on how to?
The dogs heard me get excited. They're in here wagging their tails. Sorry. Obviously if the guy's an investor, like he knows the routine right now, obviously cash is king. But I think that's there's a couple of options. Louisiana, I'll use Louisiana terminology first. You've got bond for deed and you've got seller financing, both of which I think are going to be more popular than they've been in a long time, right? Bond for deed is kind of like other states call it like land contract, land sales contract, where you can tell the seller, hey, look, I'll pay a little bit more, but I'm going to pay you off over time. Right. So I'm not getting a loan from the mortgage lender for whatever reason. I don't have the cash, but if the seller is cool with getting a little bit more, but kind of like layaway paying over time, you can always negotiate that. Seller financing is another way. Look, it's one of the cool rights that's granted to us as real estate owners in the United States of America is that I can be the bank. Kevin, you could buy my property from me, and if mortgage rates are 8%, I could say, dude, I'll give you 7%. I'm just as an example, right? That may not be a good enough deal for you, but it's 100 basis points off what you could get from the bank. And now I'm not getting all the cash up front, but you're going to make payments to me just like a bank. Now, those are a couple of options that are out there. I think we just need to get creative until the market kind of breaks and moves. Don't be afraid to get creative, but also, sometimes it just doesn't happen too. That's real estate also. If somebody comes in that's got the cash and you're working on something else, sometimes they're going to win. So I think speed is always important, in today's day and age. So hopefully that helps a little bit. That's basically the options, right? If you don't have cash, you don't have a loan, you can try the bond for deed. You can ask the seller if they'll do that. You can ask the seller if they'll do seller financing. I'm the kind of guy that would do it. Because
Yeah, and Frankie just said Bond for Deed is an awesome vessel. Frankie and I actually talked a lot about
there he
Bond for
is. What's up,
Deed.
Frankie?
With Bond for Deed, so I mean, there's not too much downside for the seller, right? Because say if I'm buying something from you, Bond for Deed, and I default on the payments, then you essentially retake the property, right? And then also you don't have to worry about insurance.
Well, so yeah, this is super state specific, right? But in Louisiana, the what's really important about both of those, by the way, is you would still get them drawn up and recorded on public record, right? Make sure everything's protected. But yeah, there's special rights that are granted. When you think about a real estate transaction, whether you pay cash or you get a mortgage, the seller walks away from the closing table made whole. So the
Mm,
rest of it doesn't matter to them. But if you think of a bond for deed, that is not the case. The seller's walking away from the table. They have transferred title, but they don't have all their money yet. So under bond for deed, the big thing is if you were to buy one, just don't miss a payment. Because if
mm,
you're 45 days late, you can basically be evicted from a property that you bought. And the difference is you may not have equity like you did if you bought it with a mortgage or cash. So it's risk reward, just like
mm.
anything else, right? Because bond for deed is sort of designed for the person that doesn't have cash or can't get financing. So, but anyway, I think it's a really cool vessel, and all states have some version of that. I think Louisiana's is the coolest because it's the simplest, but there's a lot of cool options.
Yeah, he's in Mississippi actually. Yeah, it's crazy when this came up. He was trying to get me to buy the property, but I was like, man, like you said, cash is king right now. I'm waiting for the
It is.
crash.
It
But
is.
let's go back to insurance, and I want to kind of finish what we were talking about. So this is kind of what I see happening, and could be wrong, guys. I'm wrong about a lot of shit, but I'm also right sometimes. So we got a new governor in Louisiana. Look, this ain't political, guys, but I think he's going to end up being a good governor. And you're seeing, like you said, the insurance rates rising in Florida. So you saw a huge influx of people moving to Florida over the past couple of years. So obviously now I would venture to say that a lot of people that bought houses in Florida probably couldn't afford what they bought, or they could barely afford it. And now the
Yeah.
insurance is going to price them out of Florida. So where are they going to go? Well, they're going to go into states that are cheaper, that are close, that have similar climates. So I think Louisiana will actually see an influx of people. Now, what our governor is going to have to do is say, hey, State Farm or Liberty Mutual, Progressive, all these insurance companies, if you want to write car insurance policies, you have to write homeowner insurance policies. You
Yeah.
can't just pick what you want to do because it's more profitable. So
Yeah.
I think that would be the simplest solution. And I think, obviously people getting more educated on deductibles and, what they can do to lower their premiums, like, so we can have push both ways. I think that's a solution. So yeah, in the long term, we're going to see those prices come down, but it is kind of crazy how much they've gone up in certain areas.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's already regulations similar to that that are in place now, right? Where insurance companies have, they can't pick and choose a lot of times that they're required to do multiple lines at a certain amount. And I'm not an expert. I don't know the numbers. So insurance experts out there might be like screaming through their headphones. But we do understand that it's a difficult dynamic that all states are dealing with. I think the reality of the whole formula is until we get some sort of substantial change, um, so, and it would probably be something that we would maybe not like because, for instance, flood insurance has been less expensive than market for a long time. In fact, Louisiana as a state, we got the best deal in the world for flood insurance for a long time. We got so much more out of that entire program than we paid in, right?
Mhm.
And so, you know, the government's coming back and they're like, we're losing money. So it's very difficult because there were so many storms. But I guess all of these roads lead to the top line probably has to come down for all the numbers to work
Mhm.
because we may think and we may feel and we may be right that there's an insurance problem. We may feel and think and we may be right that there's other problems in the cost of acquiring real estate in certain ways. But at the end of the day, the governor cannot make a company that says we're just going to leave and that means we're going to leave everything because the numbers don't work. It's in our interest, right? All states, it's in our interest to make it financially viable for both parties.
Mhm.
And so we're just trying to work our way through that. So the more difficult it is, the more I like it,
Mhm.
because again and again, as a millennial, like I'm on the older side of millennial, but I'm still a millennial, grew up with a Nintendo controller in my hand. I love this because I think there's going to be a lot of people, maybe baby boomers that are ready to retire or whatever. And I'm giving you a long answer, but they're going to go, you know what? I'm tired of all this. I just want to sell it. And there's going to be people like me and you and that are going to be there. They're going to be like, I'll take this on. And long term, it'll be our turn to create cash flow and wealth and all of that. So, what do you think about what you see in insurance? I mean, as an adjuster, like, look, the cost of everything has gone up.
Mhm.
So the cost of, like, when you're writing adjustments on insurance policies, the premiums are going up because the cost of everything went up. The cost to
Mhm.
replace your house, every component has virtually gone up. And you just see it going around the wheel of inflation, right? It's like lumber's down, and then electrical wires down, and then this is down. It just keeps going around and around. Then it's
Mhm.
up again. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah. So again, you talk about like imperfect systems, and I would definitely say
Yeah.
that insurance would clearly be, an imperfect system. And the way I look at it is like a pendulum swinging, and the pendulum swings different directions. And I think for a long time, the pendulum has swung in the direction of the insurance carriers, and it benefited them. Then when all these storms starts happening, then people start wising up on how it actually works. People start lawyering up. People start getting, general contractors, people to, public adjusters. So you have these different segments that really, really took hit after hit with these insurance companies. So
Yeah.
what you're seeing is the pendulum swinging the other direction. Now, what's going to happen going forward? Well, what I think is going to happen is more people are going to start self-insuring, because it doesn't make sense what's happening. Like, for example, like I live in St. Bernard Parish. We put up a giant federal
Yep.
protection flood levee wall,
Hmm.
but our flood insurance went up. That doesn't even make sense. You would think it would go down. So the federal
Yeah.
government hasn't been able to really give us any quantifiable data on why the flood insurance would be going up. But you are right. Flood insurance in Louisiana has been underpriced for a long time. But what I think people are going to start doing there, believe it or not, there's a lot of people in Louisiana whose houses are paid off. And, if they live in a brick house, maybe they're going to say, you know what? Let's just get a fire policy. Let's just get a fire and a flood policy, and we're going to get rid of the wind, because the hurricane deductible is so high that it doesn't pay for anything anyway. And if we have a brick house with a good roof on it, we should be pretty much good, so they can get a cheap fire policy. So I think, the consumer has to adjust a little bit too. And you have to let the free market, take course. You obviously, I said, I want, the governor to be harder on these insurance companies. No. I don't want the government involved in insurance really at all. But the problem is it just seems that they've had a cozy relationship with previous administrations where they're able to do this to us with no recourse. So
True story.
again, the pendulum is swinging, and now we just need it to swing back our way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great example of be careful what you wish for. Like I'm a definitely a libertarian leaning, freedom loving, you know, gun toting, flag waving American boy from the South, right? I
Mhm.
love this country and I love all of the things that it affords, but I'm also realistic that, like, if the government wasn't in charge of flood insurance, we wouldn't have it, or it would be astronomically expensive.
Mhm.
So, like, you have to actually give the government credit on this one, as hard as this is, in that they have been losing so much money. So, for all of us that call ourselves fiscal conservatives, this is a complicated topic
Mhm.
because the National Flood Insurance Program and FEMA are losing their rear end. I mean, billions of dollars. And so, what they're trying to do in an organized, systematic way is to raise premiums so that they'll stop losing money. Now, that sounds prudent, but all of a sudden, when we look at our statements, me included, because I'm in one of these magical areas with the auto increase, it's not fun and it's painful and I don't like it. But I also understand what the system would look like if it was a true free for all. We would probably have nothing.
Mhm.
So it's difficult. These are, and I think that's why they keep kicking the can on all of these issues. I mean, let's be honest. The National Flood Insurance Program is always part of this continuing resolution. It's always part of this, temporary budget. It's all. There was one year, I think it was like 2012, maybe, or somewhere in there, where flood insurance was set to expire nationally, like every 3 months, and it kept happening, and they kept renewing it at the last minute.
Mhm.
And so, like, every 3 months, we didn't even know if real estate could transact in the entire country if it required flood insurance, because they couldn't like come to any sort of resolutions. I mean, it's just, they're all complicated problems. But what you said is right. It's an imperfect system, but the market will flush it out. I think what I'd like to see is people to be asking for something that's probably unreasonable, but people to be more understanding that real estate is a long, slow beast. It turns slow. Like, imagine an aircraft carrier in the ocean. It's not going to turn on a dime in either direction, right? But it always keeps moving. And
Mhm.
so ultimately, it's going to find what it needs to find, because I think by spring 2024, we're going to know a lot, right? If sellers need to sell or buyers are absolutely going to buy, we're going to find what the market is, and you know, it, whatever that is. Unfortunately, if the cost of acquiring keeps going up, well, then the asset price is likely going to come down. And I think that's what the Fed has been trying to accomplish the whole time.
Mhm.
Real talk, I think Powell's trying to deflate the bubble that he blew up through COVID with transitory inflation and all of that. And I think that if he has his way, he's going to leave office with a lot of people mad at him, but having undone, or at least put a pin in this bubble that he knows that they blew up. I think that
Mhm.
he wants to at least try to do that. And so we'll see. It's been a very easy ride, because Powell tells you exactly what they're going to do, and he telegraphs it, and he doesn't waver from that. So the only people that are shocked are the people that aren't paying attention, because he tells you exactly what they're going to do. So higher for longer is here. We're not going back to 3% interest rates. Okay, so what's that going to look like?
Mhm. Yeah, and that's the environment that they're creating, and it kind of looks to me like they're creating this nation of renters, and if you were able to get the cost of building materials down by lower inflation, then that would in turn positively affect the insurance rates, because if everything, all the building costs was cheaper, all the labor costs was cheaper,
Yeah.
then they wouldn't have, the rates wouldn't be so high. But Frankie just asked a question. You made a great point about homeowners self-insuring. Do you guys think there is a potential scenario where mortgagees loosens insurance requirements, i.e., not force wind slash hail in an effort to reduce costs? So I don't know, Frank. I'm gonna go with no, because they just have so much of a vested interest in the property. So I don't think they'd want to be in a scenario where a house is underinsured, because on a large scale they would lose millions. But what do you think, Chris?
I think you obviously know the answer. Let's think about it realistically, right? And Frankie, just drop it in mortgagee, just to let everybody know he's an expert, right? Just drop in that industry knowledge word, that little signal out there. Nice work, sir. Um, uh, I think flood insurance is, again, another great way to look at that. For instance, uh, the reason a lot of people don't have flood insurance in general is because mortgage companies in general do not require it for all properties like they do for
Mhm.
casualty insurance, homeowners insurance. So there's one school of thought. What if, like, federally insured mortgages being a great example? If your mortgage company is going to be FHA and all this stuff, they're going to be going to Fannie and Freddie, like all these. What if they required a base minimum flood insurance policy, right? Um, for everybody? You dramatically increase the pool of people paying in, so that should decrease the premiums.
Mhm.
But this is a thought experiment, because what am I also saying? I just added a new required insurance in the United States of America that I just said I'm a gun toting, flag waving USA Southern boy that wants people to leave me alone. That's the difficulty of it,
Mhm.
right? You could impose requirements to get more people paying in and ultimately reduce the cost, but so far we haven't seen a lot of movement in that direction. So self-insure, that's an age-old question. That's a finance question, right? That's a big risk. I think we all have to think about what happens when the big storm comes in. You better have the cash to make reasonable repairs socked away. Otherwise, I don't know. I'm not a financial advisor, but it's a risky
Yeah,
scenario.
so everybody's kind of got their own kind of risk tolerance, and insurance on a property. Like Chris, I lost my house in a tornado, so trust me, I know. You know what I'm
Oh no,
saying? Like,
you were in that path where the tornado went like twice within
yeah,
like a
yeah,
year. Oh, that was crazy. I'm
the
sorry.
first one. So yeah,
Jeez.
man, anything can happen. If you don't think it can happen to you, it definitely can. But Chris, check this out, man. I want to show you this article.
Yeah.
This is a tweet from the Kobasi letter, and said, another day, another house and market record. A home buyer must now earn $114,627 to afford the median priced U.S. home, according to Redfin.
Mm-hmm.
This is up 15% since last year and over 50% since 2020. Meanwhile, the current median household income in the U.S. is just $75,000. So essentially, they're under $30,000 to own a house, the median household income. In other words, the median household income needs to rise 53% for the median person to be able to afford a home.
Yeah.
And even if then 50% of people would still not be able to afford a home, we have an affordability crisis. And they actually posted this chart. So what do you think's happening right now? So, are we just becoming a nation of renters? Is this unavoidable? Or is there possibly, creative ways through education that, even if you're below the median household income, you can actually afford a house?
Yeah, I think that is a huge question that's on a lot of people's mind. It's a reason that I think you're seeing so much talk about this, right? And I know you had Gary Cardone on recently, right? Like last week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I know he's got a really strong opinion about how he feels about owning versus renting and the generational changes in taste and all of that. And so I know there's a lot of people that view things this way. What I will say is we could keep running these stats. I've got charts forever that could show you that this is true, because the asset explosion of real estate through the COVID, the ZERP, it was kind of like the final blow off. And then the really slow rate of incomes keeping up with that, the gap has gotten really wide. This is true. Like, this is kind of what I was getting at earlier on social media. People are just beating the dead horse over and over and over again. Because at the end of the day, what needs to happen? Interest rates need to come down so that the payments are more affordable, or the price of the asset needs to come down to meet the affordability goals of the buyer that can afford it. One of those two things is going to happen. A lot of people are waiting for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates and go backwards. They're not going to do that unless something catastrophic happens that gives them license to do that. I really don't think they're going to do that. So even if they cut down to, let's say, I don't know, let's say mortgage rates are 6%, 6 months from now. Let's just use that as a number. Okay. Are we there? I think that we're there for some home buyers, but it depends on the market. It depends on a lot of things, right? It's just overstretched. It's like the last guy trying to get out the exits of the latest crypto craze, or that last person to sell an NVIDIA, before it gets dumped. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so what I see with all of these, and that's a really reputable Twitter account. I like that they do their research before they put out their data, but it's like the sky is falling. It's like Chicken Little, and on both sides, right? Everybody wants to say it's like over for real estate. It's not. It's not even close. But it is broken. Look, we broke the supply demand dynamics. We broke the monetary incentives, and we broke the entire way that this country works. Like, we turned it off for the better part of a year, and then we just want to turn it back on. We made people stay home. And then we're like shocked now that everybody values their home so much more than they did before. All of these dynamics are at play. at the end of the day, the market is going to work it out. It
Mhm.
is going to work it out. Everybody's not going to stay where they are forever. Like, we're not going to stay frozen forever. Look, multifamily real estate, like Gary was talking to you about last week, right? Because I
Mhm.
know he's a fan, and obviously his brother has
Mhm.
made uh, quite an asset base for himself doing that, right?
Incredible,
Which
yeah.
which I respect a lot. Local boy from Lake Charles, both of
Mhm.
them,
Yep.
right? They came from
Yep.
virtually nothing. People have a lot of opinions about them, and that's my favorite thing. That, by the way, that Grant will tell them is that I don't care what your opinion is. I just need you to have an opinion because at least you know
Mhm.
who I am, right?
Mhm.
I find that hilarious. He's way more self aware, I think, than people give him credit for. But anyway, um, um, but because interest rates were at zero for so long, a lot of people that had money were looking to get return, right? That's
Mhm.
why you saw everybody going to the far end of the risk curve, right? Whether it was the riskiest crypto or NFTs or whatever, or what a lot of wealthy people have been doing. It's no secret, multifamily real estate. But what happens because of the long capital cycle is that now we're at the kind of the other end. We're kind of coming on the other side of the hill, at least of this part of the business cycle. And you've got a lot of units coming online, right?
Mhm.
There's going to be a lot more apartments in the United States a year from now than there are now. They're already being built. A lot of these were permitted. People don't realize were permitted and were in process and approved before COVID. Like,
Mhm.
this is not a short thing. And so there's a lot of people betting on that. What that's going to do is likely at least bring the cost of rent down, because if you are a landlord, you're going to have more competition. That may not be a bad thing, right? But then what that's also going to do is produce competition for buying versus renting. Like, um, my wordy responses are just because as I think about it, I'm just trying to make sure that everybody understands there's nothing but good on the other side. And if we go through a hard patch, like, that's where the really good stuff is going to come from. And I'm ready for it. In fact, the longer we keep trying to put it off, the worse it's going to be.
Di
Um, you know, so renters versus buyers, I think there's always going to be people that want to rent. There's always going to be people that want to own. And
Mhm.
I'm totally cool with both, because isn't that what this is supposed to be about?
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing wrong with either. You know, there's advantages to being a renter, y'all. There's advantages to owning your own property. Everyone's situation is different. Now, what I see, and this is just my prediction, y'all, not financial advice. I see in the next 2 years, interest rates perhaps going all the way to 10% interest rates. I know a lot of people think that's crazy, that's high.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think that's going to happen in an attempt to combat inflation, which it's not going to work. But what it's going to do is going to crash the real estate market, similar to '08. Now, you make your money when there's blood in the streets, guys. So, if you're somebody that, doesn't own a property, or you're trying to buy that next rental property, you may have some opportunities, if they raise interest rates. And, don't worry about, locking in that 9%, 10% interest rate, because let's hypothetically say Trump wins the president.
8%.
What do you think the first thing he's going to do if interest rates are 10%? He's going to lower them back down. He's going to lower them back down. And I'm basing that on what he did in his previous administration. That's what he did. He lowered the interest rates to almost 2%.
Well, he
So,
put a lot of pressure on Powell
yeah.
to do so.
Well, I think Powell will be out of there. That's the thing that I'm thinking now. Going back to what we were talking about, Grant Cardone and Gary Cardone, is they both have, even though they're twin brothers, very different. Grant is obviously more the real estate guy, and Gary is crypto, huge Bitcoin guy and stock
Mhm.
guy. So that's kind of where my world kind of intersects with both. But what
Sure.
do you think, Chris? Do you see any opportunities in crypto right now? Do you see that as a hedge against inflation, or?
Well, first of all, I hope you start hammering on Twitter your 10% interest prediction, because you're going to get a lot of people upset and hammering you in the comments if you
Mhm.
do that. I
Oh, yeah.
highly encourage that you do that. um, uh, so, cryptocurrency, I find, is like an essential piece of the portfolio going forward. I'm a Bitcoin guy. The other stuff is for fun.
Mhm.
Bitcoin is real estate. It is digital real estate. It's taxed like real estate.
It's a
It is treated
commodity.
like real estate as an asset
Mhm.
class. It's already been determined, so therefore it has inherent advantages. It has the first mover advantage, right? Um, and obviously most people know the Bitcoin story. They understand, the scarcity principle and all of those things. Um, and so, let's just say that I have some Bitcoin and I'm probably not planning on getting rid of it, right? But I'm also water. I tell people that all the time. I am constantly evolving what I say that I'm going to do based on if the situation changes.
Hmm.
But uh, I think the blockchain is more interesting to me in general, as AI, the blockchain, that whole world interacts with these old industries that we're all talking about, like ours in real estate, like insurance policies. These are just some that come to mind, like car ownership and transfer. Like, I think there's a whole lot of real amazing uses that people are going to find ways to streamline that are going to reduce the cost of transacting real estate, which is going to make it healthier and better. Now, I'm in the industry. All of the people that I work with are in the industry. I'm not saying it's over or that none of us are going to be able to make money anymore. That's what people hear. But
Hmm.
I think they misunderstand it, right? I think just the other day I was talking to somebody about the car industry. And, you know, I know you asked about crypto, but like if the
Hmm.
consumer wants something, if they want an ability to do something, they're going to find a way to do it. And so, any time that we stand in the way, the consumer is going to find a way. And I think that's why Bitcoin is so amazing,
Hmm.
because with all the money printing after the great financial crisis, right, and all the stuff that was going on, somebody saw all that and actually solved the problem,
Hmm. That's
right?
exactly it.
They solved the problem, at least to the best degree that we have ever seen in human history to this point, right? They solved that problem. But I don't think it's a universal solution. I think that the idea that states are going to give up their sovereignty over money and currency is ridiculous.
Hmm.
And I know that some in the crypto universe, like the true libertarians, like that's what they want to see, but that is just not going to happen.
Hmm.
You don't understand humanity and states and armies and war. Like we got to be realistic,
Hmm.
but they can work in harmony.
Yeah.
Like, look how many people in Congress we have now that are pro crypto and pro Bitcoin. Like, this is getting better.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I know a lot of people know me as a real estate guy, but I think diversification. But as long as they're assets, you're going to win in the long term, right?
Agreed.
Assets, collect
Agreed.
assets.
And it's up to you. I got friends that are into gold, into silver. Do your own research of what assets benefit you. And y'all, what's interesting right now is I've been doing a lot of crypto content for a long time, and
Yeah,
for the first time, we're seeing Robert Kennedy Jr., Vivek Ramaswamy, presidential candidates publicly say they are, Ron DeSantis, that they're pro crypto, that they want to back, they go as far as say they want to back the US dollar by Bitcoin. But I like what you said about the blockchain, because that's what I think people have a hard time differentiating,
yeah,
the blockchain versus Bitcoin or other altcoins. And, think of like, titles, when you get title work for a house, or, insurance documents, all of that will be on the blockchain. So, just the way the internet disrupted real estate, and the internet, in ways elevate the real estate industry, this technology will do the same. And I'll tell you something else that's going to happen too, is that these banks are going to hold your Bitcoin and say, oh, you want to borrow against your Bitcoin, for that real estate purchase. We will custody your Bitcoin, relend it out, and allow you to borrow against for real estate. That's exactly what's going to happen. That is why the Fed has come out and said, hey, look, as an asset class, that was the fear of people for a long time. And I told them they cannot ban this. They cannot ban it. And now they had to concede and say, hey, it's a commodity. It's a commodity, which, if you're paying attention, this is the biggest moment for the asset class, because it has the green light. Now we see the spot ETF about to be approved, and it really is, you're going to see a transition of a lot of money flow into crypto. And I think what'll happen is, I know what I'm going to do is, when we get in the bull market, you sell your crypto and you go buy real estate.
hmm
and rinse and repeat. That's my plan, Chris.
yeah. Actually, I'm curious. What is your take on that? Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I'm kind of wondering if, like, the crypto universe needs to be a little bit more careful of what they ask for,
Hmm.
because now that you have BlackRock and these other institutions that are going to have ETFs,
Hmm.
like, I'm not sure that people understand necessarily, not you, but in
Hmm.
general, the power that they have to manipulate anything
Hmm.
that's under their control due to size and market structure. And then you're going to have derivatives and
Hmm.
derivatives of derivatives
Hmm.
and all of this kind of stuff. Do you have any concerns about that mainstreamization of Bitcoin and ETFs and all that? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah.
Yours.
Yeah, so of course, we're getting whether it's Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, it
Yeah.
ain't just crypto they want to manipulate. It's
Yeah.
stocks, it's real estate. They want to buy all the houses. So, no, as a Bitcoin person, I'm not
Well, we're
too
gonna come back to
thrilled.
that one.
Oh yeah, I'm not too thrilled with Larry Fink coming into crypto, but what I try to get, my audience and people to see, it wasn't too long ago I was arguing with people that they were going to ban this technology, they were going to outlaw it, China banned it, this and that, and now almost like simultaneously we've seen a 180
Yeah.
that now the technology is being embraced. They can't wait to buy it all. Everybody sell your Bitcoin to BlackRock. I'm just trying to get people to see the hypocrisy and see what is actually happening, that they're already manipulating. They're already manipulating it with fake news. So now, what is going to happen with the spot ETF? Will it, through derivatives, they're not going to be able to manipulate it the way they can do stocks because it has a finite supply.
Mhm.
But what they can do, and it's just not financial advice. This is what I think they plan to do. I think they plan to buy it all. I think they plan to buy it all. And through all the assets and all the money they have, convince people to sell it, use the mainstream media to attack it, to get the price down so they can buy it all because they know they can't ban it. That's what I think is going to happen, but we'll see. I mean, you got Ethereum ETF too about to launch.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know. I was just talking Bitcoin. The other stuff is a party, as far as I'm concerned. When they moved from proof of work to proof of stake, they lost my faith. I have to be
Agreed.
honest. But I'm not a crypto expert. But it changed the game, because if you weren't in early, right, and like had enough of a stake to where you
Mm.
could, be a miner or a voter or whatever, with Ethereum, I'm not sure. I didn't like that. I think it becomes okay. You I've been thinking about it since you just stuck it on in there that they want to own all the houses. I'm
Mm.
not going to let you get off with that one that easy. These large asset managers want return.
Mm.
And if return comes from single family houses,
Mm.
that's where they're going to go. If return comes from crypto, that's where they're going to go. If return comes from bonds or getting people in 60/40 or getting everybody in gold, like, they need, desire, must have growth and return. So, the reason that Blackstone and a lot of these institutions were buying tons of houses, especially through COVID, is they were trying to take this pile of money and get return. And so they saw at a mass scale the best return was to buy houses for cash,
Mm.
rent them out. Now you see entire neighborhoods that they bought are for sale.
Mm.
Now, I think people need to realize, well, why is that happening? Excuse me. Because now that interest rates are at 5 on the front end, right? The value proposition is not the same. So maybe now they want to cash out and they want to move this giant animal somewhere else. Capitalism at its core wants return. So I I I worry a little bit about the people that are getting totally on board with they want you to own nothing. And I know what they have said, and I know what they've put out there, but it's just like Bitcoin. You can't own it if I own it.
Mm.
I'd have to sell it to you,
Mm.
right? So if you're willing to sell them your Bitcoin, that's your decision. But they can't own it if you, Kevin, they can't own your Bitcoin if you don't sell it to them. They can't own all of the real estate unless we sell it to them. But
Mm.
moreover, I just want everybody to understand they're looking for return. And when the
Mm.
return's not there, watch what happens when Blackstone takes entire areas, neighborhoods like in the Houston area, and they decide they want to unload it. All of a sudden, what became impossible to get, now you're going to be able to get great houses for great prices. The market cycle constantly evolves and will win. So um, I don't. I think they do want to manipulate, but I don't think they want to own it all. Because right now, institutions realize what being a landlord at scale really looks like, and they don't
hmm
want to do it.
So the way I look at it is this, is that, first, I own real estate and Bitcoin, but, going further into that, I would not own Bitcoin until I owned a house. So if I
Okay.
was somebody that didn't own a house, so I know people probably don't understand what I'm saying by that. Well, with Bitcoin, your best strategy is going to be the dollar cost average into it. The way you're going to approach investing in Bitcoin is going to be a lot different than the way you approach investing in a house, because it's two separate asset classes. And you're right. People, you really shouldn't sell Bitcoin the same way that, you shouldn't sell real estate, because it's the tax burden in selling real estate, unless you're just flipping houses, is a lot different. So they both present different opportunities. And again, what I see happening is another crash coming similar to 2008. And we're also going to see the money's going to flow, like you said, to wherever there's alpha, wherever there's yield.
Yep.
So we're going to see the crash in real estate, and you'll see people flow out of real estate into
You're using
crypto.
the word. You're using the word crash. I thought we came to an agreement on that.
Well, yeah, crash might be the best word, because I don't really view markets like that. And with real estate, I'm always looking at real estate. In real
Yeah.
estate, the price fluctuations, through these sites like Zillow, it's just very interesting to see how much they change. And deals come and go. Obviously, there's these tax liens you can buy. There's so many ways. There's for sale by owner. There's so much opportunity in real estate. But it's not, you know, I see more opportunity in crypto right now, and I think
Yeah.
we've seen, and I've said that, you've seen these past couple months, a lot of these coins, I know you're not too big on altcoins, 3x, 4x. And, for somebody that, with a small investment in that, they can sell that, dude. And that's a down payment for a house.
Yeah.
So that's the way I'm always looking at it, is just to be able to move, like you said, like water, and get into different assets, depending on, you're not going to time the bottom, and you're not going to time the top, but there'll always be return, right, Chris?
Yeah, yeah, and look, I'm not necessarily a hater on altcoins. It's like I
Mhm,
only have so much room in my brain for so much stuff, right? And so I'm fully proud to admit that when you get further out on the curve than Bitcoin, a lot of these other ones, I know what they are. I may have owned them here and there, but I don't understand the complexities of each project, right?
mhm,
Like game coins. Like, look, I look at my nephew, I look at little kids. I know what that universe is, and I know but I'm probably the guy that's going to have a crypto advisor tell me, look, these are the coins for these platforms, and they'll be a part of my portfolio, right?
mhm,
I can't be an expert on everything. So that's why, I'm not hating on things because I don't understand them. Then that would be unfair, right? Yeah, look, I don't think anything's ever as extreme as people make it out to be.
mhm,
I think at the end of the day, we all have to check ourselves because you know what? Um, I've been looking at the fundamental macro data for a while now, and it looks pretty rough on a lot of fronts. Um, there are some bright spots, but overall, like if you're just looking at the data and you just look at the data like an economist, you're
mhm,
going, I don't care who calls a recession, like we're in one, but the only people that could tell you that are the people that are getting squeezed and they're too busy trying to make ends meet to be able to tell you because assets go up. So if you
mhm,
have assets, you're like, what recession? Look at the SPX 4,500. Or if you have real estate, because basically nothing's transacting, it's all high, right? And so it depends on who you ask. But the reality is, yeah, there's a correction that's overdue,
mhm,
right? I mean, anything that goes up with that kind of speed, like real estate, I like a nice 6, 8% return every year, something like that historically. When you saw houses going up 20, 30, 40%, I mean, I was talking to listing agents, some that were in here, and it'd be like, we go to listing appointments and Kevin, I'm just gonna guess at what your house is worth, but the market's moving so fast, like we're just gonna put out a number and it's probably gonna get bid above that. Like it was psycho crazy. Like we
Yeah.
never, you know,
I saw the articles. I think it was in Dallas where it was like houses selling, 50 to 100,000 over listing price. And, the realtors were just like, listen, don't even bother putting in. I know they're asking for that price. Don't even bother putting that in. So yeah, like you said, it just appreciated so quick. There had to be a correction. There had to be, like I know people want to think stocks, real estate, crypto, they only go up forever. No, 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 no. It's cycles. It's cycles. But Chris, man, where can my audience find you, man? If they're, they want to learn more about real estate or what y'all do, man, what platforms are y'all on?
Yeah, for sure. Look, I'm pretty active on Twitter these days. I think it's, you know, uh, after a lot of the stuff that was going on, I think that if you want to talk shop when it comes to business and finance and real estate, I find the best people and the most active conversations are there.
Mhm.
So come hang out on Twitter. But you can also find me on YouTube. ChrisTalks.com is kind of like the center universe. So I put out a real estate blog. Kevin, you're reminding me of the importance that I need to fire up the podcast because, as you can see, I've got a lot of stuff that I kind of want to say and folks that I want to talk to. So ChrisTalks.com, come find me anywhere on social. I'm probably there. I'll answer any real estate question or anything else if I know the answer. And if I don't, I won't try to pretend that I'm some expert with some big ego. I'll send you to somebody I think that probably does.
Mhm.
But look, man, shout out to you. I know you're a local guy. You've got the better New Orleans accent than I do. First of all, more recognizable. People always say, you don't have an accent," and I'm like, man, you got to hear my friends from New Orleans. They've got the better ones. But you're out there hustling, man. I can tell you just started doing these live streams. I see you
Mhm.
got folks on there. Who was it? David McCollum the other day.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was fun, man. That was
Dude, it
fun.
looks like you've got the guts to ask,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's going to bring you a really long way in whatever you're
Mhm.
doing. I mean that. I think that the if there's anything that I know at this point that I've still got to learn, but if you're not afraid to just ask, you'd be surprised at what you'll get. Because a lot of these folks, I just see you pop up on the stream. I'm like, look at Kevin go, man. I feel
Yeah,
like you know,
it's crazy, man. It's so much fun. And like, a lot of people that, I'm glad, you and I were able to connect, so that's always cool. It's just like crazy how it comes full circle that I went
yeah,
to Donaldson and I was
that's
actually on y'all website. So y'all don't only also offer real estate schools. Y'all have, like insurance schools, and there's so many segments of real estate, people can get into. And I think, being able, I was always a person like I wanted to learn in person. So like, I think it's cool, what you're doing and, the brand that you've built. Cause like I said, my friends thought y'all were like a nationwide corporation, but, it's crazy for me to like, cause like the guests that I have come on, like I'm fans of them. So like, it's just surreal to have them come on and talk, whether it's crypto or politics or real estate with me, man. It's always fun. But man, y'all make sure to give Chris a follow. We're running out of time, but Chris, man, maybe in a month or so we circle back and we talk some more real estate again if you down, man.
absolutely, absolutely, dude. Anytime. I really appreciate you having me. I love this Friday night happy hour time slot. Keep it up, and I'll see you out there in the Twitterverse, man.
All right, Chris, man, y'all have a good night. Everybody, thank y'all for tuning in. We are out. We'll do this in a couple months, maybe. We are out, y'all. Peace.